You stand in a room that smells like polished wood, expensive cigars, and old leather chairs. The recruiter's office. An American flag above the desk. A photo of the president behind him. A form in front of you, long, empty boxes waiting to be filled. Every blank space, a future bruise. Your fingers tremble. Not from fear, from conviction, from the kind of certainty that hasn't yet had the chance to break. Your father didn't come. He was too busy. But you know the truth. He just didn't want to see his son trade cufflinks for a helmet. Your mother held your elbow too tightly. Her voice shook, but not her heart. "We're proud of you," she said. But her eyes didn't meet yours. She never liked dirt. The recruiter smiles with teeth that have seen combat. "You've got a name," he says, tapping the form. "But we don't do exceptions here. Everyone bleeds the same." You nod. "That's why I'm here." And at home there was a pool, private school, piano lessons, diplomatic dinners with steak that bled just the right amount. Now a helmet, fatigues, a plastic canteen of warm water, and men who smell like gunpowder and yesterday's sweat. No one asks why you're here. You are the kind of soldier no one expects. Senator's son, clean skin, soft hands, perfect teeth. And that's why you came. Because you had a belief, sharp and blinding. If the poor are sent to die, the rich should go first. And the night before departure, you don't sleep. Someone plays a harmonica down the hall. Someone else cries, not loudly, just enough. You sit on your cot staring at the ceiling, wondering when the fear will start to feel real. It doesn't. Not yet. In the morning, they give you your dog tag. Name, blood type, a barcode for the body. You hold it. Cold. Heavier than it looks. They give you a rifle just to hold. It feels like a spine. Not yours. Jungle's got no echo. Someone says beside you. You won't even hear the fear when it climbs in. You don't laugh. Whispers are how it all begins. And when the plane lifts, you stare out the window. At the world below, where there's still no war, where streets have names and people don't, and somewhere inside you something whispers, "I'm not a hero, but I have to be here." No one hears it. But maybe that's your first prayer. And maybe your last. The C-130 Hercules shudders as it climbs. Metal vibrates under your boots. You grip your rifle too tightly, not out of readiness, but because it's the only thing that doesn't feel like a lie. All around you, boys. Some barely shaving, some already dead in the eyes. You wonder which one you are. The air inside the plane is thick. It smells like nervous sweat, oil, damp canvas. But mostly, it smells like fear that no one dares speak aloud. Not the cinematic kind. The quiet kind. The kind that settles into your ribs and waits. Someone near you mutters a prayer. You recognize the cadence, but not the words. He could be praying to God or to the ghost of himself. Doesn't matter. No one answers either way. You catch glimpses through the small window clouds. Endless green. A horizon that seems too soft for what's coming. Vietnam is down there somewhere. You can't see it yet, but you feel it. Waiting. And there's a sergeant near the back of the plane. He's chewing gum like it owes him money. His boots are older than you. His stare cuts through metal. He says nothing to the new recruits. Just watches. You avoid his eyes. Everyone does. You shift in your seat. The webbing cuts into your back. Someone across from you is rocking back and forth. Rhythmic. Almost peaceful. You hear his breath. In, out, like waves. Like maybe he's somewhere else. Like maybe he figured out how to escape without leaving. You envy him. There are no instructions. No final speeches. No heroic soundtrack. Only the roar of the engine and the growing sense that every mile flown forward is a piece of yourself left behind. At some point, you close your eyes, and when you do, you don't dream of the war. You dream of your brother's stupid laugh, of your mother turning out the porch light, of peaches, ripe ones, juicy enough to ruin a shirt. You wake up with your jaw clenched and your fingers numb. You don't know how long you've been flying, but time feels slower up here stretched, like it knows what's waiting for you and is giving you one last mercy. The pilot calls out, 10 minutes. No one reacts. The fear has already done its work. It's not loud anymore. It just breathes beside you. You look around. No one is crying. No one is shaking. Everyone looks exactly the same. Too still. Like statues before a storm. You realize this is how soldiers are made. Not with glory, but with silence, and a seatbelt, and a prayer no one finishes. And you feel the descent begin. The hum changes pitch. The light turns red. This is it. You grip the rifle again. It's warmer now. Or maybe that's just your hand. Your hand that used to play piano. Your hand that used to know softness. You whisper to yourself, don't be afraid. But it's not a command. It's a wish. And like most wishes, it's already too late. The first step off the plane is not dramatic. No bullets, no fire, no drumbeat of war. Just heat. Like stepping into a mouth. Thick, wet, breathless. Your clothes cling to you in seconds. Your skin feels like it's already trying to escape. You expect someone to greet you a commander, a banner, maybe just a sign that says, we're glad you're here. There's nothing. Just trucks. Just orders barked without names. Just eyes that no longer blink. You climb into the back of a transport. Sit beside a kid who can't be older than 16. His freckles still trying to outlive him. He says, first time in country? You nod. He smiles. It's broken. You don't ask his name. Camp isn't really a camp. It's mud with tents. Metal structures that sweat. Sandbags that sag like tired shoulders. You get a cot. You get a locker. You get a nickname you don't like, and they don't care. Someone hands you a pack. Inside, socks, ammo, morphine, a half-used Bible. You're told not to waste any of them. You try to breathe. But the air is so thick, it chews first. The next morning, you're on patrol. No ceremony. Just a map, a nod, a gun. They tell you, watch for tripwires. Watch for holes. Watch each other. They don't say, watch yourself. But you do. Every leaf looks like it wants to kill you. Every root is a trap. The jungle is not alive, it's aware. You walk for hours. The mud sucks at your boots like it wants to keep you. You hear things. Insects. Birds. Something that might be crying but isn't human. You try not to listen too closely. Then it happens. You don't even see it. The guy in front of you steps left. Just left. A click. A pop. A sound too soft to be death. But that's what it is. He's gone. Not all of him, just enough. Blood hits your face. A tooth lands near your boot. You freeze. Your mouth tastes like metal. No one screams. Not even him. He just breathes out once, and it's over. The sergeant says, "Keep moving." And you do. Because there's no ceremony for dying here. Just more walking. That night, you sit alone outside your tent. Hands shaking, though it's not cold. You think about writing a letter. But what would you say? "Dear Mom, today I met the sky in someone's eyes. And then I watched it go out. Love your son." You don't write it. You clean your rifle instead. There's blood under your nails. It's not yours. But you scrub anyway. Because it might be. They call this baptism. The first time you see death. Not as an idea, but as a person you stood behind 30 seconds ago. You think baptism should feel like cleansing, but this feels more like drowning. They told you the village was hostile, suspected VC support, possible caches, no confirmed friendlies. Just enough words to loosen the rules without saying so directly. You tightened your boots, checked your ammo, didn't ask questions. Asking questions here is like bleeding. It attracts attention. You moved at dusk. The sun was behind the hills, painting the world in gold that felt almost holy. Too beautiful for what came next. The jungle opened to a clearing. Thatched roofs. Thin fences. Fires still warm. You smelled fish. You saw a child. Someone said, "Move in." No one argued. They kicked open doors. Dragged out men. One soldier lit a torch before anything started. You don't remember who. You just remember the sound. That dry crackling of straw roofs catching fire, like the sky itself had a sore throat. You didn't shoot. You didn't have to. You watched. That was enough. A woman screamed in a language you didn't know, but you understood her. She held a boy in one arm, a cooking pot in the other. A soldier pushed her down. He didn't even look angry, just tired. Like he was trying to finish a chore. A hut burst. Then another. The flames didn't roar. They whispered. It wasn't war. It was erasure. You stood by a tree, rifle tight to your chest. Your heartbeat felt offbeat. Not faster, not slower, just wrong. You told yourself, "I didn't light the fire. I didn't touch the woman. I didn't shoot the boy." And all of that was true. But so is this. You didn't stop any of it either. On the way back, the squad was quiet. No jokes. No music. Just boots in mud and the scent of ash trailing behind. Someone finally broke the silence. Just following orders. Someone else answered. "Yeah." You said nothing. Your tongue felt like it had been burned, too. That night, you tried to pray. You knelt beside your cot, whispered half-formed thoughts into the humid dark. But the only thing your mouth could shape was a memory of the boy's eyes. They weren't afraid. They weren't angry. They were confused. Like he couldn't figure out what he'd done wrong. You didn't sleep. Not because of guilt, because you didn't know if what you were feeling was guilt It might have been something worse. Acceptance. His name was Sergeant Keene. Big hands, crooked teeth, eyes like muddy glass, always open a second too long. He didn't yell like other sergeants. Didn't bark. Didn't spit. He smiled. That was the part that scared you. The first time you saw him laugh, it was over something small. A guy tripping over a root, landing face first in a puddle. Keene chuckled like it was the funniest thing he'd seen all war. But there was no light behind the laugh. Just the sound. Like a recording. Someone forgot to turn off. Later that week, you found the body. It was in a ravine. One of theirs. Still warm. The chest torn open like a red book. Pages missing. Keene stood above it, chewing something. Bet he didn't see that one coming, he said. And then he laughed again. Sharp. Dry. Wrong. You felt your stomach twist. Someone behind you vomited into the brush. Keene didn't blink. You started watching him more. The way his fingers twitched when the jungle was quiet. The way he whispered to his boots while cleaning his rifle. The way he stared at prisoners not with hatred, but with curiosity. Like he was deciding whether they were interesting enough to keep breathing. One night, by the fireside, he told a story about a girl back home. Said she used to kiss his scars. Then he paused, and you realized he didn't have any. You gotta laugh, Private, he told you once. Out here, if you don't laugh, you end up screaming. You nodded. Not because you agreed, but because no one wanted to see what he'd look like. Angry. The laughter got worse. More frequent. Less human. Sometimes he'd laugh at nothing. Just stare at the tree line and break into wheezing giggles. You'd lie awake at night, listening to him pacing outside camp, giggling like a child telling secrets to the dark. You didn't tell the lieutenant. No one did. Out here, madness was just another camouflage. Then came the day of the ambush. 2 dead on your side. 1 enemy left alive, barely breathing. Keene stood over him, lit a cigarette, exhaled, then pulled out a knife. You tried to look away, but you didn't. Not fast enough. He smiled down at the man like an old friend, then leaned in close and whispered something in his ear. The man flinched. Keene laughed. Then everything went quiet. Back at base, no one spoke of it. Officially, the enemy had died in the crossfire. Unofficially, Keene was a good soldier. Effective. Efficient. Decorated. No one wanted to ask what it cost. That night, you heard him laughing in his sleep, and something inside you finally cracked. Not from horror, from the sound of it echoing in your own throat, because you had started to laugh, too. Not out loud. Not yet, but inside, where the real damage begins. You begin with, Dear Mom, then cross it out. Dear Dad. Then again. You stare at the paper, yellow from sweat, creased in the middle like your forehead has been for weeks. The pen shakes. You blame the humidity, but it isn't the air. You try to write about the weather. It's hot. You try again. It's humid. Again. It doesn't stop. None of it matters. What you really want to write is, Yesterday, I saw a man shoot a woman in the back because someone thought she might be hiding a map. The day before that, we took photos with a body because someone said it was good for morale. I think I'm forgetting how to feel things, but the lines just sit there in your head. Sharp. Unwritten. You draw a picture instead. A tree. A rough one, just a trunk, and 3 crooked branches. It's supposed to be the one in your backyard, where you and your brother used to throw apples, and pretend they were grenades. You remember how he laughed. You wonder if he still does. You almost write to him. But what would you say? Hey, remember when we played war? Turns out it's not a game. Instead, you fold the letter, slip it between pages of your journal, place it under your cot. A secret. A wound that hasn't bled yet. That night, someone gets a care package. Candy. Socks. A photo of a dog. He cries. Not loudly. Just enough. Everyone looks away. Except you. You stare. And think, I hope someone cries when I die. But I hope they don't lie about who I was. Before lights out, the sergeant reads the casualty list. Flat voice. Dry mouth. One of the names sounds familiar. You don't react. Not because you're strong, because you're numb. Numb is safer than grief. Grief makes you visible, and visibility here is fatal. Later, you lie in bed and feel the shape of the letter through the mattress. It feels like a tooth buried in flesh, like a truth with no one to belong to. You whisper the words you couldn't write. I'm scared. I'm angry. I don't know who I am anymore. And the dark answers back, not with comfort, but with nothing, because even your voice sounds foreign now. You fall asleep with your mouth half open, like you're still trying to say something, but no one hears. And that becomes the most honest thing about you. It starts with a look. You're on patrol. The jungle buzzes like an electric fence. You step wrong, nothing explodes. But the guy behind you mutters, "Don't do that again." You nod, but you don't ask what you did, because the real rule is, don't ask. The game has rules. You start collecting them without knowing. Rule 1. Don't speak unless you're sure no one's listening. Rule 2. If someone makes a joke about killing, laugh even if your stomach turns. Rule 3. Don't care too loudly. Rule 4. Don't blink when it's your turn to watch. But there's one rule no one writes down. Pretend this is normal. One night, a guy named Palmer tells you about his first kill. He doesn't whisper, doesn't smirk, just says it like a weather report. He was running. I couldn't tell if he had something in his hands, so I shot. Pause. They said good call. You don't ask if it was. You just nod. And learn the 5th rule. Doubt is weakness. A week later, you're in a village again. This one's smaller, quieter. No women, no children, just an old man and a radio. The lieutenant orders it smashed. Palmer does it with the butt of his rifle. Then says, he was probably calling Charlie. He shrugs. The old man doesn't argue, just watches the pieces scatter like bone. You look at his face. It doesn't ask for mercy. It just waits, like he's seen this scene before and knows how it ends. You ride back to base. Dust in your throat. Silence in your helmet. Someone whistles a tune from home. You don't know the name, but you hate it, because it almost reminds you what it felt like to be clean. That night, the sergeant gathers you for a briefing. No maps, no details, Just a phrase. Play smart. Stay alive. Don't get soft. Then he smiles. The kind of smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Palmer slaps you on the back as you stand. Welcome to the game, rich kid. You almost correct him. Tell him you're not rich. Not anymore. That money can't follow you into this. But you don't. Because the game doesn't reward truth. Only performance. Later, in the latrine, you stare into a cracked mirror. There's mud on your chin. Or maybe dried blood. You wipe it off and feel nothing. Not disgust. Not relief. Just absence. And that's when you know. You're playing too. You didn't mean to. But you are. And you're learning fast. At first, the gun was heavy. Your arms ached from holding it too long. You flinched when it clacked. You cleaned it slowly, as if it might shatter if you moved too fast. You told yourself it was just a tool, a responsibility, something you had to carry, not something you had to become. But that was then. Now, it rests in your hands, like it was meant to be there, like it knows your fingers, like it's been waiting for you to stop resisting. You don't name it. Some of the others do. Palmer calls his Jenny. You think that's sick, but secretly, you understand why. When the gun feels familiar, it's easier to forget what it does. One morning on a sweep, a rustle in the brush. Reflex. Your finger moves before your brain does. One shot. Just one. The noise echoes. Someone yells. Nothing hits back. It was a bird. A big one, dark feathers, wide wings. Dead in the mud. Everyone laughs. You laugh too. But inside, you're not embarrassed. You're relieved. Relieved that your body knows how to kill before your mind has time to argue. That scares you. So you laugh louder. At base, you clean your weapon with practiced hands. The others joke about who can field strip faster. You win. They cheer. You smile and feel nothing. Not pride. Not shame. Just efficient. Later, someone asks, "You ever fire it for real yet?" You nod. They don't ask for details. No one wants to know who. Only if. Only when. You sleep with the rifle beside your bed now. Not because you're afraid. Because you're used to it. Like a limb you'd miss if it were gone. You no longer dream of shooting. You dream of not shooting, of freezing, failing, hesitating, and waking up soaked in guilt. You don't even think you deserve. There was a time when you imagined war would be chaos. Explosions, screaming, fire in the sky. But real war is repetition. Load, walk, wait, raise, aim, fire, clean, sleep, forget, repeat. You stop noticing when your knuckles bleed. You stop wondering who you're aiming at. And the worst part? You don't want to notice. Because noticing means remembering who you were. It happened fast. They always say that. But this time, it's true. A village, small, still smoldering from something you weren't briefed on. Your squad moved through like ghosts, boots soft in the dirt, fingers on triggers. Then the boy ran. Barefoot, shirtless, couldn't have been older than 10. You didn't see his hands at first. No one did. Just the movement. And someone you still don't know who shouted, "Grenade," Your heart didn't even speed up. It just stopped. Like everything inside you froze for a second, waiting to see who would move first. It was you. You fired. 3 rounds. The boy collapsed mid-stride. No explosion. You remember the silence afterward. The kind that only comes when no one knows what to say. Palmer swore. The medic muttered something about checking the body. But no one looked at you. No one touched your shoulder. No one said, "It's okay," because they didn't know if it was. You approached him slowly. Your boots kicked up dust beside his head. His eyes were open. Mouth, too. As if the scream never made it out. In his hands, a rock. Small, smooth, harmless. You stared at it for a long time. Then someone took it from him and tossed it into the weeds. Could have been anything, they said. You nodded. Because that's what you were supposed to do. Because you needed to believe it. Because if you didn't, what were you? That night, you didn't clean your rifle. You just sat with it, hands resting on the barrel, forehead pressed to the stock. You didn't cry. Not because you weren't broken, but because the tears didn't come. They'd gone somewhere you couldn't reach. You thought of your mother's voice, of how she used to say, "Boys don't need to play so rough." You wondered what she'd say now. If you told her what you'd done, if you could, if you'd ever be able to tell anyone. In your cot, you turned over again and again. The image wouldn't leave. Not the blood. Not the stillness. Not the way the boy looked like he might stand back up and ask why you didn't wait half a second longer. But you didn't write about it. Not in your journal. Not in a letter. Not anywhere. Instead, you whispered it once into the dark. He could have had a grenade, and the dark whispered nothing back. The next morning, the squad moved out. Palmer made a joke. Someone laughed. And so did you. Because if you didn't, you'd have to stop walking, and you weren't sure you'd ever get up again. The rain started sometime after midnight. Not a drizzle, not even a storm. A flood. Like the sky had finally had enough and wanted to wash the world clean. It hit the tin roofs like hammers. So loud it drowned out the whispers. Even the ones inside your head. You lay on your cot, boots still on, rifle on your chest. Standard now. Not for readiness. For company. The water pooled beneath the tent, soaking your socks, your spine, your thoughts. And still you didn't move. You didn't want to risk waking the ghosts. Someone across the camp tried to pray. You couldn't hear the words, but the rhythm was familiar. Pleading. Bargaining. That desperate cadence of a man trying to cut a deal with something that doesn't barter. You stared at the ceiling. A hole had opened near the corner. Water dripped onto your pack. End, drip. End, drip. End, drip. Like a clock that didn't care if you kept breathing. Earlier that day, you buried another guy. He stepped off the trail. No warning, no scream, just gone. They didn't find all the pieces. You helped fill the hole. No words, just dirt. Palmer tossed in a cigarette on top of the helmet. Figured he'd want one for the trip. Someone chuckled. You didn't. Because you'd started forgetting how to fake it. The jungle outside camp seethed in the rain. Alive in a way nothing human could ever be. You imagined it swallowing everything, the camp, the men, the war itself, and no one would know. No one would care. You pressed your hand to your chest, half expecting to feel your heart. Nothing. Just damp cloth and silence. At some point, you sat up, unzipped the flap of your tent. Let the rain hit your face. It felt like punishment, or maybe permission. You stepped outside. Let the water run down your arms, your neck, your jaw. Let it fill your ears, so you didn't have to hear yourself anymore. From across the clearing, you saw Palmer kneeling in the mud, head bowed, not praying, just breathing, just not moving. You didn't call out. You didn't go to him, because in that moment, you realized everyone here is alone, even when we're side by side. Back in your tent, you stripped off your shirt, laid it over a chair to dry, even though it never would. You looked down at your chest, thin, pale, unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone who used to be innocent. You whispered a name. You don't remember whose. Yours, maybe, or his, or the boy with the rock. But the rain swallowed it, before the night could. You hadn't looked up in weeks. Not on patrol. Not in camp. Not even when the helicopters roared overhead like steel dragons. Your eyes stayed low on the dirt, on your boots, on your hands. Safe angles. Survivable directions. Looking up meant hope. And hope meant weakness. That's what they taught you. That's what you started to believe. But something changed. It began one morning during mess. A shaft of sunlight cracked through the canopy, cutting across your tray of cold eggs and old bread. You stared at it longer than you should have. Someone nudged you. You looked down again, but not before noticing how the dust swirled in the light like it had somewhere to be. Later, during a patrol, you caught yourself watching a bird, its wings wide, gliding above the trees without effort, without fear. For a moment, you forgot where you were. You blinked hard, shook it off, kept walking. But that night, you dreamed of it again. Not the war, not the boy, just the bird, and a sky that didn't look like it was trying to kill you. The next evening, you sat by yourself near the edge of camp. The air was soft. The sun was setting, and you looked up. Really looked. Not with longing, not with prayer. Just with eyes that wanted to remember what open space felt like. The stars came out, slowly, like they were afraid to be seen. You counted 5, then 9, then you lost track. You couldn't remember the last time you'd counted something that wasn't dead. Palmer wandered over, lit a cigarette. He didn't speak, but after a while, he followed your gaze. "Sky's bigger here," he muttered. You nodded. Because it was. Not literally, but in a way that mattered. He left the cigarette on a rock and walked away. It burned quietly for a long time after he was gone. That night, before sleep, you opened your journal, not to write about pain, or death, or questions you'd never ask aloud. Just one sentence. I saw the sky today, and for once, that was enough, because the jungle could take your body. The war could take your name. But that small, stupid act, looking up, that was yours. His name was Reed. You remember because he always spoke too fast, like he was racing time. From Kentucky, or maybe Kansas. Someplace with fields, he said. Someplace where the sky touched the ground. He was 17 when he got there. 18 last week. Someone gave him a can of warm beer and sang off-key. He laughed. You laughed too. You wish you hadn't. It happened in the middle of a heat wave. Too hot to move. Too hot to think. You were lying on your cot, trying to breathe through your shirt, trying not to smell the rot that lived in the corners of camp. Reed was 5 feet away, cleaning his rifle, or pretending to. No one was really watching. No one expected anything. Then, crack. Just one shot. Not loud. Not traumatic. Like a book snapping shut. You didn't move right away. Your ears rang. But not from the sound. From the absence that followed. You turned your head. And there he was. Still seated. Still holding the rifle. Still leaning against the tent pole. Except everything inside him was gone. Someone shouted. Someone else vomited. You just stood. Not fast. Not frantic. Like walking through syrup. Your feet stuck in the dirt. Your voice stuck in your chest. You looked at him, and the only thought you had was, he beat us to it. They covered him with a tarp. Pulled him out before nightfall. No words. No salute. Just removal. As if grief was an infection they were afraid might spread. Palmer muttered, "Coward." Someone else said, "No, just tired." You said nothing, because you didn't know which side you were on. Maybe both. That night, you lay awake. The cot was empty beside you, but the air still smelled like gun oil and copper. You stared at the ceiling, at a crack you hadn't noticed before. It ran like a river toward nowhere. And all you could think was, if I follow it long enough, maybe it leads out. You didn't pray. You didn't cry. You just whispered his name once. Reed. Not because you missed him. Not because you forgave him. But because someone should say it, even if it's only once. Even if the jungle swallows it before it reaches the trees. The next morning, the cot was gone. Replaced. Reassigned. Erased. But under the dirt, you found a scrap of paper. No note. No confession. Just a single line, scrawled in pencil. I wanted to be seen. You folded it. Kept it. You still do. At first, you still move when they say, move. Still kneel when they say kneel. Still nod when they say, good kill. But one day, you forget. Not on purpose. You just don't hear the order. Or you hear it, but it doesn't sink in. Like the words hit your ears and bounce off. You blink. Everyone else is already moving. You catch up. No one notices. That's how it begins. Later that week, a lieutenant tells you to sweep left. You sweep right. You tell yourself it was an accident. It wasn't. You just didn't want to do it. Didn't trust his voice. Didn't trust anyone's voice anymore. Except your own. And even that one's cracking. You stop saluting after sunset. No one checks. No one salutes back. It becomes a quiet agreement. We're tired. And tired soldiers forget how to obey. During an intel sweep, you find a book in a burned hut. English, pages singed at the corners. A Bible, or maybe just a book about farming. You can't tell. You don't turn it in. You keep it, Not to read. You haven't read anything for weeks. But to remember that there are things that aren't war. Things made of paper instead of blood. Then comes a moment. Small, but real. A man in a village won't speak. He's old. Palmer kicks him in the ribs, says, "Talk or we torch the rest." You're supposed to hold the man's arms. You don't. You step back. Pretend to check the perimeter. You don't look back until it's done. But you didn't help. That matters to you. Even if it doesn't change anything. That night, someone says, "You're not pulling your weight." You shrug. That's all. And somehow, it says more than an argument ever could. You start walking slower. Not enough to stand out. Just enough to feel like your legs still belong to you. You start answering questions with silence. You stop fixing your bed the way they taught you. You let your collar wrinkle. You keep the laces loose on one boot. And none of it gets punished. Because no one here cares about rules anymore. Only about survival. And survival is sometimes the opposite of obedience. In your journal, you write, "I used to want to be good. Now, I just want to be true." You cross out true. Write, awake. Then cross that out too. You leave the page blank. Because that's the truth now. You're no longer following orders. You're deciding which ones to ignore. And that is the most dangerous thing. They never taught you how to survive. They packed you onto a plane. Same model. Same noise. Same stench of metal and sweat. But this time, no one was excited. No one joked. No one made plans. Just silence. Just a return ticket that didn't promise arrival. You looked out the window. Below, the jungle green, unbroken, still watching. No victory. No closure. Just mud and smoke, fading slowly into clouds. You pressed your forehead to the cold pane, and thought, "I'm leaving nothing behind but pieces." They landed you stateside on a Tuesday. No parade. No brass band. Just customs and a clipboard. Someone handed you a duffel bag. Someone else said, "Thank you for your service." They didn't mean it. You didn't answer. At home, the grass was trimmed. The air smelled like bread. People smiled too easily. You sat at the dinner table in a clean shirt and couldn't lift your fork without thinking of fingers lost in the jungle. Your mother asked if you were hungry. You nodded. But the food tasted like cloth. Your room hadn't changed. Same bed. Same trophies. Same posters on the wall of bands you didn't listen to anymore. You lay down and stared at the ceiling. It was too white. Too safe. You missed the crack in the canvas. The stars you once counted. The rain that once kept your hands busy. At night, you dreamed of fire. Not gunfire. Not bombs. Just a village burning. No one screamed. Only the sound of your own breath. As you watched and did nothing, they said the war was over. But no one collected the pieces of you that stayed. The piece that still checks rooftops. The piece that flinches at soda cans. The piece that can't stop imagining a rock as a grenade in a child's hand. Your brother asked if you were okay. You said, "Yeah," then excused yourself to the bathroom, where you sat on the edge of the tub and stared at your hands. For 30 minutes. They didn't shake. They didn't bleed. They just didn't look like yours anymore. In your journal, you wrote, "I came home, but I didn't bring all of me back." You didn't cross it out. Not this time. The war ended. Your orders ended. Your uniform ended. But you kept going, because something in you still hasn't figured out how to stop. You didn't die in the jungle. Not with a bullet. Not with fire. Not with some heroic final stand. You died in pieces. One nod at a time. One order followed. One moment of looking away. The killers didn't wear black. They didn't come at night. They sat beside you, ate beside you, taught you how to survive by slowly forgetting how to live. You learned their language. Don't flinch. Don't ask. Don't hope. You spoke it fluently. Even now, back home, you still do. There are days when the world feels like a photo that doesn't match your memory. People talk too much. Nothing smells like smoke. You go to the store and freeze at the sound of a shopping cart squeaking, because for half a second, it sounds like a tripwire. You sleep on your back, stiff as a body bag. You wake at 3 a.m., even when no one's screaming, even when no one's missing. Your parents stopped asking. Your friends don't know what to ask. And you've mastered the art of smiling at the floor. Once, you went to a movie, a war film, clean uniforms, heroic speeches, no mud, no shaking hands, no boy with a rock. You walked out halfway, not because it was wrong, but because it was too neat. Nothing about what you lived through was neat. Sometimes, at night, you write letters, not to anyone, not to be mailed, just names. Read, "The boy with the grenade," Palmer. You write them again and again, until they lose shape. You imagine a wall where you could carve them, not as tribute, as warning. The real killers weren't the enemy. They were the rituals, the commands you didn't question, the silence you didn't break. They taught you that survival is just dying slower, with better posture. One morning, you look at yourself in the mirror. Not long, just enough. The face is yours, but the eyes, they belong to someone who saw too much and said too little. You whisper, "I'm still here." It sounds like an apology, or maybe a threat. You're not sure, but it's the first thing you've said aloud in days. You close the journal, place your hand over it, breathe. It shakes, but it's still breathing, and that counts for something. You were not killed by war. You were killed by everything it told you to accept. But you're still here. In the quiet, it's not your executioner anymore. It's your evidence.